One of the most important news stories of the past fortnight was the decision to raise unemployment support by $25 per week. This is a very quick video to explain what this debate is about, so you can shape your own views about the policy. Obtaining reliable, trustworthy figures is difficult because the policy area is so complex, but this chart by the Grattan Institute provides some clarity of perspective. Although Australia's unemployment supports have remained flat, the poverty line has increased. What this means is that a person who is unemployed today is significantly worse off than a person who was unemployed 3 decades ago. The cost of living has increased, but the supports have not. We should quickly digest what the other two lines here mean. The Henderson line is from the 1970s and is a bit difficult to conceptualize. But the lower relative poverty line is much easier. It is half of median household income. So what you do to calculate this is you get everybody's household income and sort them in order. And then you find the household that is smack bang in the middle of that list. And you take their income and halve it. So what this means is that this number, the relative poverty line, half of Australian households earn double the amount of that. And even then, Australia's unemployment benefits are significantly lower than this line. So we return to the graph. Half of Australian household income is double that amount. During COVID, we increased unemployment support to above the poverty line, but that COVID-specific program has ended. And one response might be, well, what about our elderly? But unemployment supports are lower than the age pension. But more importantly, why make this comparison at all? Why should any Australian live below the poverty line? Increasing unemployment supports does not mean that we are unable to increase the age pension. We can do both. And now the reasonable inquiry that people have is about BLUDGERS, people who just do not want to work and feel they should be able to live on benefits. We know that these people exist on the fringes of society, but it's hard to define a bludger. The objective statistics shows that only 1 in 5 people on supports have been unemployed for more than a year, and even then, not all of these people are going to be bludgers. A large proportion of this group are going to be complex, including issues that relate to people falling through gaps in the disability support framework, people with complex mental health issues, and people who, due to the very low rate of unemployment support, are simply stuck in cycles of poverty. So, even with that 1 in 5 figure, it's lower again for actual bludgers. But let's say that every one of those 1 in 5 was a bludger. Should the vast majority of people on unemployment support face starvation simply because you are worried about this minority? And further, if you are worried about long-term unemployment, there are better ways of dealing with this than keeping the rate so low. One of the key policy goals of the welfare system is to ensure that people are encouraged to work. But remember that graph earlier, a person who is unemployed now is significantly worse off than the same person in the 1990s. Even if you think that the rate should be low to provide an incentive to work, it's not clear why it should be even more punitive than it was in the 1990s. A better way to think through the problem is to avoid imagining the bludger and imagine instead that it is your kid who, through no fault of their own, became unemployed. Youth unemployment in Australia is rising, and it is increasingly likely that you know somebody who is affected by this. If, for no fault, anybody could become unemployed, why not make the system fairer for everybody? And finally, there's this quote from Robert Menzies, Australia's longest-serving Prime Minister, who founded the Australian Liberal Party. He said this during a debate about whether or not we should means test the dole. The Labor government of the day wanted to ensure that only the poorest people in Australia could access unemployment supports. Menzies instead proposed a taxpayer-funded scheme that would function like insurance. His words, "The moment we establish or perpetuate the principle that the citizen, in order to get something he needs or wants, or to which he has looked forward, must prove his poverty, we convert him into a suppliant of the state for benevolence. That position is inconsistent with the proper dignity of the citizen in a democratic country. People should be able to obtain these benefits as a matter of right, with no more loss of their own standards of self-respect than would be involved in collecting from an insurance company the proceeds of an endowment policy on which they have been paying a premium for years." So that's it from me. I hope this helps people to develop their own views about the current debate about welfare policy. Feel welcome to discuss this with me on Twitter @LegalReckoning. Bye.